I love to learn. I enjoy the excitement I feel when I master a new skill or concept, and I want my students to have that feeling as well. Throughout my career, I have realized that experience and choice are crucial to learning and the desire to learn. My learning theory synthesis paper explains how discovery learning and connectivism function together. When a learner discovers something for himself, it becomes his. Connectivism explains that learners make new connections through their internal or external networks with each discovery. With this new understanding, I realized that I needed to harness the power of social media in my classroom rather than banning it. In discussions with my district technology leader, I've used portions of my paper to show that we need to alter the social media policy to allow classroom use. The unit I created for my project-based learning class utilizes discovery learning and student choice. Students research the natural resources available in a region of Earth and plan how they would build a civilization in that area. This ill-formed problem requires students to use research and writing skills as well as their imaginations. Student choice guides all other learning. When my students completed portions of this project, they were engaged and successful. This project could be used in language arts, social studies, science, or STEM classes. In EdTech 541, I created a collaborative argumentative essay assignment. This assignment requires students to use Edmodo to crowdsource opinions about the validity of their arguments. Students would then use Mixed Ink to contribute to a class essay. This assignment helps students to learn from and contribute to a network of learners. Since Mixed Ink is no longer a functioning website, I will be converting this assignment to use in Google Docs. This type of assignment would be useful in any subject matter because students learn by contributing to the discussion. For the past few weeks, my students have been researching and teaching grammar concepts in groups. Each student and group contributed to the learning of the rest. This type of networked learning has worked well. The students who are teaching learn because they have to teach the topic. The other students learn because their teachers are fellow students who understand their struggles and speak their language. I will continue to have students teach the class in the future, but I plan to expand our network of teachers and learners to include other classes at our school and, as appropriate, students around the world. Teaching is both a science and an art. In deciding learning objectives, assessments, and instructional activities, teachers must rely on common sense and knowledge of their students to apply scientific or research-based solutions. In EdTech 501, I wrote an annotated bibliography on flipped classrooms. I wanted to make the best use of my class time, and I had seen videos about flipped classrooms on YouTube. My research did not show any applications for K-12 language arts classes specifically, but I was able to find post-secondary applications. Completing this research gave me ideas about how I could at least partially flip my classroom. I have applied this knowledge by posting just-in-time tools, videos, and other learning tools on Google Classroom. My students completed most reading assignments at home, and we discussed them in the class. Flipped classrooms can work with any subject matter, but they seem to be easier when students have internet access at home. Modeling is one research-supported technique that I employ in my classroom. For EdTech 541, I created a video that models my expectations for assignments and procedures. My students used this video several times the year I created it and liked that they had constant access to examples of answering questions using claims and evidence. One thing I learned from making and using this video is that I need to chunk information into smaller segments. I plan to remake this video into several shorter ones so that it can function as a just-in-time tool for my students. Just-in-time tools allow students to access information as they need it to complete a task. When I created my literary concepts unit for EdTech 506, I created it with a flipped classroom in mind. I realized that for students to successfully complete one of the assignments, they would need a tool that would help them annotate their text so they would be prepared for class discussion and their writing assignment. This just-in-time tool explains what annotation is, why students should use it, and how to mark their text. We annotate most texts in my classroom, and this tool has assisted students who were absent, as well as those who did not understand in class. This tool would be useful to students preparing to write an essay and to teachers introducing annotation or close reading to their students. Two concepts that I understand better because of the MET program are backwards design and the value of reflection. With backwards design, you begin by identifying learning goals and then plan backwards to learning activities. This concept has helped me plan better for projects and essays. In EdTech 503, I created a critical writing unit using backwards design. I began by analyzing learner needs, asking what limitations students faced, and what students already knew about critical writing. I used this information to create learning goals for the students. After I identified learning goals, I created an assessment and evaluation plan. Then I determined the instructional flow, and finally I chose and created instructional materials to meet those goals. The project-based learning assignment I created in EdTech 542 asks students to create a proposal to colonize an uninhabited world similar to Earth. It will be a semester-long project and will require students to learn research, writing, and presentation skills, as well as use their imaginations. Before designing learning activities and tools, I identified learning goals and created assessments. I also created a schedule of due dates for each aspect of the project to keep students on task. In EdTech 506, I created several visual learning tools to teach literary concepts. Before creating each tool, I identified a common problem the visual needed to solve. These assignments taught me the value of reflection in designing instruction. For each visual, I explained the thought process behind my solution, referencing research-based practices. I also conducted a user test of each graphic and reflected on how I could improve its usefulness based on the feedback I received. Now I use this practice frequently in my classroom. This year, my students and I have piloted 2 ELA curriculums, a reading intervention program, Pear Deck, and an interactive board. After and sometimes during each pilot, I have asked my students for feedback, either formally or informally. Their responses have helped me make decisions about future use or adoption. Understanding backward design has helped me to be less impetuous about starting projects. I used to begin big projects the day I thought of them because I was excited about the idea and I knew my students would be too. However, these projects became less enjoyable as they dragged on because I hadn't planned with the end in mind. Recently, I decided to shelve an idea for a big project on analyzing media and creating commercials until I had time to go through the backwards design process. Networking and collaboration are important aspects of professional practice. My district has asked us to create professional learning communities with our colleagues to better support student learning. Expanding beyond this local group by networking with teachers across the world has helped me find new solutions for my students. In EdTech 543, I created a visual representation of my personal learning environment. Creating this image helped me visualize my circle of influence. I realized how members from each network influenced me, and I could imagine how I might influence them. Also in EdTech 543, I created a video and blog post representing the connections between connectivism, communities of practice, and personal learning networks. While researching for this blog post, I learned that participating in personal learning networks helps students self-regulate their learning. As a result of this understanding, I have helped my students create their own personal learning networks. For EdTech 543, I actively participated in webinars and live Twitter chats. From the Library 2016 webinar, I learned about makerspaces, which I would like to implement at my school. In a live Twitter chat with California EdChat, I had the opportunity to discuss how to tackle tough topics with students. This discussion helped me prepare for some of the discussions I have with my students when we read The Outsiders. I plan to participate in more live Twitter chats as my schedule allows. In EdTech 503, I utilized subject matter experts at my school in creating my critical writing instructional design. I consulted the subject matter experts about appropriate assessments, pacing, and the order of instructional activities. I revised the sequence of lesson activities and the focus of my unit based on feedback from the subject matter experts. Collaborating with coworkers on instructional design was helpful. My subject matter experts helped me to see flaws that I might not have noticed on my own. In EdTech 543, I collaborated with classmates to create a close reading unit that utilizes social media. We communicated via Facebook Messenger in a group chat to decide our focus and divide the tasks of creating the unit. We each developed a different part of the lesson, and then we all reviewed the final product for coherence. Participating in this collaborative group introduced me to new web resources, but more importantly, it helped me to see how I could have my students collaborate more effectively. Research is an important component of any teaching or administrative practice. Before participating in the EdTech program, I used research primarily to prepare background lessons before reading a novel with students, or when looking for differentiation strategies. However, the research I have conducted in my EdTech coursework has changed the way I teach and the way I look at curriculum and technological resources. In EdTech 543, Social Media Learning, I learned about content curation. Similar to using Pinterest to save sites, curation sites like Pearl Trees allow the user to annotate each blog post or article. My curated content about critical thinking has been valuable in our ELA team discussions this year. Another benefit to curating content is that it can be shared easily. My content would be useful to any educator, but it is especially useful to those who teach close reading and text-based writing. Examining the local learning environment is also a beneficial type of research. The school evaluation summary I prepared for EdTech 502 reviews the state of technology at my school. By completing this inspection, I better understood my student population and how technology is used at every level at my school. Having a concise summary of the school's technology status provides evidence to support my recommendations at technology and leadership team meetings. Program evaluations are another form of research. For EdTech 505, I evaluated my school's implementation of Read Live for reading intervention. In my first meeting with the teachers and administrators who were implementing the program, I discovered that the learning outcomes were unclear. This discovery altered the purpose of the evaluation, which changed to focus on all reading intervention efforts. We discovered that several teachers were already using an effective program that covered more skills than Read Live. The results of my evaluation led to a smaller pilot of a different intervention program the next year. The research I have conducted in the EdTech program has changed my teaching practice as well as informed administrative decisions at my school.